Nearly a disaster for Tadej Pogacar in his home race, but INEOS didn't seek to take advantage of it. This is UAE Tour Stage 5, another sprint stage finishing on Al Marjan Island. Pogacar in the leader's jersey, Joao Almeida, Pogacar's lent to Almeida, the young rider's jersey. But Alpecin Phoenix, at the start of this stage in some crosswind sections, were keen to make the race difficult, and echelons happened with Pogacar getting into the front split. You saw him pulling there in the leader's jersey, and eventually this all would come back down together and we would get a sprint. But Alpecin's initiation of this and work, putting INEOS on the back foot behind, meant that with the intermediate sprint coming up, which offered 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds, Jasper Philipsen taking the first place, Pogacar was able to sprint and take 2 extra seconds on Adam Yates. The groups came back together shortly after that, but that goes to show that Pogacar knows his 15-second, now 17-second gap to Yates isn't that large with her feet on the weekend. Czech national champion Kirkler broke away with 29k's to go and actually got a 2-minute and then 1-minute gap with 9k's to go, with Conrad chasing for ages, looking around to see where's Alpecin? Where's the other sprint teams to chase? Alpecin have been chilling at the back, kind of like what Bora did on stage 1, and they've been able to get away with it because the roads are so wide here in the UAE Tour. FDJ going to the front, pacing, I guess, to chase the sole breakaway rider. But with 7k's to go, drama almost happened for UAE. Tadej Pogacar, you see on the radio here, George Bennett had just gone to the front of the group and none of the other sprint teams were pacing. Pogacar has a rear wheel puncture as the sprint trains are getting ready to launch the end of this stage, and Pogacar was panicking a little bit, I think, there, trying to get out of the bunch and get back to the car. It took him a couple of 100 meters and almost 30 seconds to get to the back of the bunch, and then the question was, would he make it back to the group? Would INEOS slap Ganna and Plapp on the front and rip it? And it's a pretty calm bike change from Pogacar. He just leans the bike pretty comfortably next to the car. He seems relaxed. At this point, he's got Mikkel Bjerg there with him to pace him back. He's got the convoy. It was a really slow change, but let me know, what do you think? Should INEOS have paced? Now, I don't like the unwritten rules. I remember I defended Movistar when they paced in the Vuelta. I didn't mind it. In the Tour de France or in a Grand Tour late, I would tell the team to pace if it was going to make the difference on GC. Flags fly forever. But in this case, UAE Tour sprint stage, when Pogacar was probably going to make it back anyway with the convoy and with Mikkel Bjerg helping him, with there being a few stages to come, with this being Pogacar's home race, it's more important to him than Adam Yates. With the whole rest of the season coming up, I'm not sure it would have been a good idea to pace to put 5 or something seconds into Tadej Pogacar, or even if they were able to, and if they didn't, then you get no reward, and then UAE and Pogacar will not be very happy with you for the rest of the season. Pogacar made it back pretty comfortably. The whole convoy of UAE riders around him, maybe even Pascal Ackermann, who didn't really contest the sprint, and INEOS had opted to not rip it at the front after that rear wheel puncture for Tadej Pogacar. Maybe they could have hidden behind, hey, we were launching Ilya Viviani, our sprinter, so they had plausible deniability as well. Sprint trains got set up, 2.4k's to go. FDJ, Bike Exchange in Israel at the front end. Bike Exchange long train got detached again. You see, I think Groves and Kell O'Brien looking around like, where's Mezgets? Where's Groenewegen? Groenewegen's deep in the bunch on Damar's wheel as Philipsen and Alpecin Phoenix make an appearance. Daryl Impey's pulling with 1900 meters to go. Israel, they came to the front almost the same place last year and went a little bit early. Dowsett's behind him and they're going for Rudy Barbier. Tom Dumoulin is bringing up Olav Koy with Timo Rosen on his wheel. Koy's been boxed in badly in the first couple of sprints, but is a pretty fast young guy, 20 years old. Dumoulin and Ryan Mullen get involved in a bit of a skirmish, which actually opens up the space for Alpecin Phoenix, because when Impey drops off, he was going to drop off right in line with Alpecin. That little skirmish opens up the lane for Alpecin there. Dowsett brings the Israel lead out to the Flamme Rouge, but the Bora Hansgrohe lead out was easily the best today. The most powerful. They put Bennett in the best position. Mullen brought them under the Flamme Rouge or past it. Good pull from him. And then Shane Archibald, despite I think Stannard drifting out into him, he then brought back Van Poppel and Bennett across. And there was a gap opened up by Malacelli on the wheel, I think, of Jacopo Guarnieri. And Archibald puts Danny Van Poppel on that wheel, who claims it with the gap left there, and now Bennett and Van Poppel have the right amount of riders in front of them, with Israel probably going a little bit early for this finish. You see Bike Exchange, they still have 3 guys for Groenewegen and deep, but he's just too deep at that point. He can't move up. Olav Koi's able to get onto Philipsen's wheel, or at least fight Malucelli for that Philipsen wheel, whilst Jacopo Guarnieri gets to the front and looks around like, where's Demar? And there's Israel on the left-hand side, Zabel leading out Barbier, but they're on the long way around. This is a right-hand bend, and Danny Van Poppel goes the shorter way, the inside. Insane lead up from Van Poppel, and this time he leaves enough space for Bennett to go inside of him the shorter way around. Bennett goes to the barrier, shuts off Olav Koy, but Philipsen just absolutely torches Sam Bennett and wins another stage at the UAE Tour. Yeah, you see the problem for Barbier on the left. He gets left sort of in no man's land, and then he has to duck off and try and fight Philipsen for Bennett's wheel, but Philipsen wasn't having a bar of it, and he's able to open up Philipsen on the left-hand side of Bennett, whilst Coy tries to dive up the inside, and then Bennett, kind of exactly like what Philipsen did on stage 1, probably worse than what Rattesi did in Tour of Oman, but Bennett goes to the barrier and Olav Koy has to restart his sprint in a little bit of the draft of Philipsen, which might have helped, but he ends up coming second ahead of Bennett, with Malucelli 4th. So with Jonas Rickard apparently having a mechanical, which is the last man, a really good last man for Philipsen, it's an incredibly impressive win from Philipsen. Cavendish apparently, who crashed heavily yesterday, had a mechanical in the last kilometre as well, so he was out of it. But tomorrow, we have the last sprint. I want to see what Groenewegen can do in clear air. I think he can win it. I think he might even be the fastest guy here. I still think that. They just got to get it right, the Bike Exchange leader. But Philipsen takes this stage, 23 years old, already racking up an incredible amount of World Tour victories, and he looks just flat out faster than last year, winning ahead of Coy, Bennett, Malucelli, Barbier, Viviani, Demar, Dainese, Cantor, and Bristenga sprinting for Trek instead of Lepinge. Pogacar extends his lead on Yates by 2 seconds and on Vlasov by 1 second. He'll go into Saturday, providing no problems tomorrow in the sprint stage, Jebel Hafid, with a slender lead on Vlasov and Yates. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Like it down below if you did, and I'll see you with the Sprinters Deluxe recap tomorrow. Ciao.